Don't have tunnel vision going into the semester. Be open to a lot of different things. It could be product management. It could be technical sales. It could be marketing, whatever have you. I mean, there's so many opportunities here at Georgia Tech, and the relationships that Georgia Tech has and fosters with so many great companies here in Atlanta, as well as across the globe as well, that you have an incredible amount of opportunities, but you also have to have that initiative to get there too.
Welcome to another episode of the Intersection Podcast, brought to you by the Georgia Tech Scheller College of Business. I'm your host, Analisa Wade. I'm a first-year full-time MBA student here at Scheller. Today, we're going to bring you another episode in the summer internship series, and today we have Trenton Gantt, who is going to be interning with. We'll get there in just a moment. Trent, can you tell us a little bit about yourself? What's your Scheller story? What brought you here?
Absolutely. So I'm actually an Atlanta native, or let's say Georgia native, just north of Atlanta is where I'm from. Born and raised in Marietta, Georgia. Went to undergrad at, dare I say it, the University of Georgia. And then I pivoted, went to the Army, and then figured out that, the Army wasn't going to be my end goal in life. And I knew I wanted to, take those leadership skills and, funny enough, the engineering degree I earned at Georgia, take those two together and then apply them to the private sector. And so I knew I needed to go back to school and kind of fill in those gaps. And Georgia Tech really spoke to me. My long family history here. My uncle played football here back in the 80s. We cheered for them on Thursday night games growing up, on Saturday games growing up. My twin brother and my older brother also got their undergrads here. So I didn't want to be the black sheep of the family anymore, and I knew I wanted to come back home. And Georgia Tech, already has it's a prominent business school. On top of that, not a lot of people don't know that. They have the flagship Georgia Tech brand in their head. They think of engineering, but I've been blown away by the business school, and the curriculum that is taught here is I don't want to say it might rival somewhere at another school here in the state, but I think it does. And so Georgia Tech, I found a home here and moved back from the Army and settled back here in Atlanta. And so now we're here at Scheller, applying all those great lessons learned from the Army and from my undergrad at UGA. And then we're applying them to, can I say my next move, or we're going to wait for that?
We're ready. If you're ready, we're ready.
I'm heading to Nike this summer. I got my Nike kicks on currently, got my Blazers on, my little low tops. Heading to Memphis, Tennessee. Not a lot of people know that Memphis, Tennessee is probably one of the largest logistical hubs in the United States. It's home of FedEx as well, but Nike has their North American logistical headquarters over there too. So that's where I'm headed for the summer as a supply chain intern, but it'll be with their last mile operations team.
That was a lot to unpack right there.
Yeah, it's a lot, but that's the story at the moment.
The first thing I didn't know, you have a twin brother?
I've got a twin brother. He graduated from Georgia Tech in 2018 with an IE, so industrial engineering degree. Shout out Jared. He works for UPS Capital as an industrial engineer for them. So yeah,
that is so cool. Yeah. So you both are like engineers, and
so my older brother, engineer as well. He's a mechanical engineer. I did biological engineering. So we all three got different flavors of engineering in us. And they kind of discredit me because mine's from the other school in the state. But, it's neither here nor there.
It's okay because you're making it up now.
Yeah, exactly.
We accept it.
Thank you.
So first, congratulations on Nike. That is a major accomplishment. I know you're super excited about that. I also didn't know that they had a major warehouse, a logistic warehouse in Memphis, Tennessee. Can you tell us a little bit more about that? Like, what does that look like? What are you most excited about? Are you familiar with the area? Yeah,
so funny enough, I've born and raised in Georgia, but never really west of the Mississippi ever. And I kind of had to look. I knew Memphis was in Tennessee. I don't think I'm a dumb person, but I had to figure out once again where in Tennessee it was, and I didn't know it's literally located on the Mississippi River.
Yeah,
I looked at it, I just go, God, you're a smart guy.
You're a smart guy.
How'd you not know this?
Look, none of us knew.
So I've never been to Memphis. I've heard some good things. There are some other, it's got historics with Beale Street, Elvis Presley, blue suede shoes, all that kind of stuff. So very excited to kind of explore over there in the summer. There's actually a half marathon on Memorial Day.
Oh, wow.
This May, and I think I might scoot up there just a week early, go run it, and then be up there for the first initial move in, and then start, work the next week.
That sounds awesome. Yeah. That sounds awesome. Already doing your research. You've learned a little bit of history.
And that was the biggest thing, was trying to understand, all right, your surroundings, figure out what's good, what's bad. Memphis kind of gets a bad rep in the in the national news for being a little unsafe. So Nike has done an incredible job with vetting areas within Memphis. They're putting up their interns for the summer. So you have the option not to, but I said, hey, their security team's already done a full swap of the city. So why not trust them and Jesus take the wheel.
Yeah,
let Nike take the wheel.
Yeah, that makes sense. Putting all your trust into Nike, that makes sense. I mean, we all do.
Got a lot of Nike gear.
So let's backtrack here just a little bit. So you're going to Nike, which is great, but let's talk about how did you land in this position? Why Nike? But before we even kind of give us the full journey, was this your original idea of where you would go when you started the MBA program, or did you have other things in mind?
Yeah, absolutely not. This was a very kind of happen chance scenario. My goal coming into the program, once again, coming from the military, I really want to get back into the DoD sector, but I really am very passionate about aerospace and space technologies.
Yes.
I'm the current president of the Space Club here at Georgia Tech, or at least at the Scheller MBA organization. And so we've got a great team here, but very passionate about that industry and about that, kind of the space economy, as some might say. So I've got a personal tie to that. And as I was kind of moving into the internship recruiting cycle, I was very heavily recruiting into those kind of roles and those industries. So a lot of supply chain operation roles in certain things like SpaceX, like Blue Origin, Airbus is another one, Boeing, Lockheed, all that kind of stuff, right? And funny enough, I think I was on LinkedIn one day, and I was actually headed to a family golf tournament right before Thanksgiving, and I just saw it, and I clicked apply, and I kind of sent in my resume and I guess the little bit of the questionnaire, and then they got back to me within 24 hours, and they're like, hey, and I'm driving up to Charleston. I've got this mustache, which I typically don't always have, but I thought it'd be fitting for the podcast, because when I was driving up, I also had this mustache, and I was like, oh no, they want me to do it. You ever heard of a Vimeo?
Yeah.
And so they wanted me to do a first initial video and answer some more personal questions and whatnot. And I was like, man, I don't want to shave my mustache just for this. I was like, maybe it'll give me a little flair, maybe a little bit of personality with it. And I think it did, because funny enough, I ended up talking to the recruiter later on, and she was like, oh yeah, no, I loved your mustache in the video.
Oh,
and I was
hilarious.
like, you might be the first person who's ever really
when you start, you have to keep the mustache now, right?
I actually met my boss on Zoom the other day with the mustache too.
Yeah.
So it was a little bit thicker, not as well kept, but it was there. So we'll see. I like to switch up a little bit.
If nothing else, that'll help you secure the job.
Yeah,
be memorable, be different.
And that's what we're trying to.
No, I'm just kidding. But okay, so you knew you wanted to do supply chain operations, but you hoped maybe something with space or something in that type of arena, but you still are doing supply chain with Nike.
Absolutely. One thing that I don't think is as promoted as it should be is how strong of ties Georgia Tech has, especially Scheller College of Business, how strong of ties they have to incredible companies, not only here in the state of Georgia and in Atlanta itself, but also nationwide, the brand itself. These companies are looking for a product that's coming out of Georgia Tech, and it's a very high standard product. And there are close relationships with Nike and with the Scheller College of Business, especially the MBA programs as well. I was very fortunate to get the opportunity to interview and apply and whatnot. And so, not exactly what I had in mind coming into this fall, and then now in the spring, but it was an opportunity I don't think I could have ever passed up if given it, and it was. And so, check that box, and now we're kind of relaxing for the semester a little bit. So,
you landed at a very great place. If not space, the next best thing would be Nike. So I think that's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
You mentioned the network of Scheller and the different resources that really help you kind of figure out your path here. Was there any particular resources that you used to help you on your internship search, whether it be Nike or just in general while you were looking?
I think what's such a great aspect of the Scheller College of Business for the MBA program is the cohort size. It's a very intimate size in comparison to, let's say, UT Austin, McCombs, or UNC, or Darden, or insert whatever
anywhere
top business school, right? They're going to have a much larger cohort size. But here at Georgia Tech, you're going to have anywhere between 70 to 80, and I know we're looking to expand here in the future as we get some more facilities. But for right now, anywhere between 70 and 80 individuals. And even then, you're able to reach out to someone you might not be as close with and be like, hey, I see that you're also applying for this role. Like, you want to help each other out. And so I was very fortunate to have an individual like that, where him and I were able to bounce ideas off each other. Oh, hey, did you look at this article? Oh, hey, did you look at this? And so that's when we found out, oh my God, they have, Memphis, Tennessee is where they have their largest, logistical hub in Atlanta, or in America. And where, they're trying to pivot from retail stores and wholesale to more e-commerce and, DTC, direct to customer or direct to consumer, strategy. So it was very interesting to hear that with and someone else coming along in that journey with you during the research process and then also the application process as well. And that to me, kind of speaks volumes to the College of Business itself, or to the MBA program, is that we're all here to win together. No one's here to cut you down or mislead you in any way. We're all here to succeed together. And I think that was a good example. And that person did not get the job. I did, but at the same time, it was hey, either one of us can get it. Like, we wish each other the best. So it was an excellent opportunity and an excellent experience in this internship research process.
No, that's really good to hear. So you're saying while you were recruiting, another person in your cohort was supportive, and you both went down this path together, and it didn't matter who was going to land the job, but we're just going to make this simpler and just be that support for each other.
Exactly. And there's times, so as I mentioned before, coming from the military, there's also a veterans club here at Georgia Tech, and specifically within the MBA program. And one of the individuals in that club, it was over Christmas break, and it was like, hey, we have interviews coming up. Like, does anyone need help? I reached out to her and said, hey, I definitely need some help. and it very fortunate. She used to work at Amazon as well, so she's been out of the military and then in the civilian side. She knows kind of that other side too, and kind of what they're looking for. And so I was able to, call her on Zoom, and she already had I don't know if she went to ChatGPT and looked up Nike, did her own research, but she had 6 to 10 extremely accurate questions that could have been asked, and in the same vein they were asked in the interview. And I was able to kind of practice, my stories, my STAR method, all that kind of stuff. And it's a little bit tougher for veterans because you have to kind of replace all the jargon and all the stories and then kind of reformat them to make them make sense for everybody else. And so she was able to help, lend a hand, give constructive feedback where it needed to be. And I think really because of her, I was able to really codify my stories and then present them in such a way that helped me succeed. So once again, I mean, two stories right there that show that your peer network is probably your greatest advantage here at Georgia Tech.
Yeah, and that's some real commitment that she did that over, you said winter break?
Yeah.
Yeah, I wasn't calling anybody. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. So, okay, so we talked about kind of how you got the internship at Nike, but can you expand on more? What do you feel like made you stand out as a candidate in comparison to, maybe other profiles, especially with your military background?
Absolutely. So, it's funny because not having the experience to interview for roles in the Army, because a lot of it is more promotion based and more assignment based. It's not more or less, hey, you're going to interview for this role. It's, hey, you're assigned this role. Okay. And then as you perform, we can do X, Y, and Z. So I have never really asked any sort of direct manager or senior manager, hey, why'd you choose me over this person? I got that feedback from my boss this time around because I was very explicit, hey, I'm just curious because I've never had this opportunity before. I've never had, I really want to hear kind of from your side of the story, from your side, what is about me that led you to choosing me? He's like, honestly, I looked at your resume. I heard from the two interviewers that you had that, not only were you personable, but, you've got a great analytical background as well. You have supply chain operations, experience from the Army, whether it might not be the exact same thing that we're doing here. You're able to kind of put two pieces together, make them whole, and then move forward and report on some key performance indicators and whatnot. And so he's telling me, hey, I've got a very big data analytic size brain. All of my managers and subordinates, they all come from the operation side. I needed the piece that was going to meld those two together and then produce cohesive team. And I was like, oh, that's me? Yeah. You chose me for that? And he's like, yeah, man, this is, we've got a great opportunity this summer to kind of test out this role and see, how you perform. And, we'd love to see how that looks coming coming this summer. So, and the team's fairly new. I know they're, within, I think, 2 to 5 years, and the direct manager, he's the senior manager of the group, but he'd be my direct manager. He had just gotten there roughly 10 months prior. So he's still kind of figuring out, shaking out the goods and the bads. And so, I think he's looking forward to having someone with a little more operational yet data analytic background come this summer. So, yeah.
That's awesome that you actually asked. So you got the offer, and then I didn't do that. Maybe I should do that next time. But
once again, very fortunate to even, and mind you, I'm not saying this was the only offer, but it was the best offer. And I'm sitting there, I'm like, how fortunate am I? And now I'm curious, okay, where can I really leverage myself? Because if they expect something that's X, and I come in thinking it's Y, there's gonna be a disconnect. And I want to be very clear, with our expectations of each other. And so I think that first and foremost, I need to know what they saw in me, so I can bring that to the table, and then some.
While you were recruiting, you mentioned there was maybe other offers or just different things you were considering. But did you experience any roadblocks or challenges along the way?
Oh my goodness, yeah.
Yeah, I figured. Oh
my goodness, yeah.
Maybe tell 1 or 2, maybe 3. No, I'm kidding. But what was a challenge?
Definitely I think the hardest part is just flat out rejection. And I think once you get past that, when you send in, you could be fixated on a role and you're like, man, I am gonna. I could fit this to a T. This is the perfect job listing for Trenton Gantt. Oh my goodness. And then you apply, and then within 30 minutes, you get a rejection letter.
Not laughing at you. Sorry.
Well, I mean,
laughing with you.
Yeah.
I know the feeling.
And so it can be frustrating because, I view myself as a high performer, and I want to do well and impact wherever I go. But knowing that, there's a software somewhere or someone's just weeding through, but they're also, you have to kind of think of it, you have to be a little empathetic. You have to think of it from their point of view too. They're also going through thousands and thousands of applicants. And so, when you get that first initial rejection, that does sting a little bit, but it also stings when you go through multiple rounds. And that might be, I had an opportunity to interview with SpaceX, and that was, they're, I think, known very much like Amazon, very much like Microsoft, and a lot of these other, high-profile companies is, they seek such excellent talent that they want to attain the best. And when you go through multiple rounds, and you're like, okay, we got good momentum here. We're going to keep it going. And then you come up short a little bit. It stings a little bit more, I think, when you're invested into it and you're like, God. So the first one, first scenario, you can definitely their Band-Aid gets ripped off pretty quickly. Yeah. The second one's the Band-Aid's kind of slowly getting ripped off. And I've got, hairy arms. So, it hurts the hair when you can pull it off. I think those two roadblocks, I think, everyone's experienced them too. And that's the best thing is, I don't want to go right back to the peer network thing, but every single person will have that same experience at least once. So it's good to have peers that share that with you as well. And
for you in particular, how did you recover from that? Maybe the scenario where it's your dream company. Mm-hmm. It's going to happen to somebody, right? It's your dream company. Well, I know it happened to you, but but in all seriousness, it's your dream company. This is where you want to work. You got the interview. Mm-hmm. You got another interview. You got another round. And then in the final stage of it, it just didn't work out. How do you, or how are you, if you still are, how do you recover from that?
I think, once again, asking for feedback is always great. I don't think applicants are going to get, until you go to the deeper rounds, I don't think you're going to get that outright unless you have someone who wants to help you out from that company and give you some good constructive criticism or feedback. But really, I think you just have to kind of take a step back and analyze the scenario and say, okay, hey, where did I go wrong? What could I have done better? Maybe my stories weren't as sharp as they needed to be. Maybe I didn't have the metrics to back it up. Maybe there was someone else that was truly better than me in these scenarios. And so, you got to wish them the best too. So, maybe it just wasn't going to work out, and that's okay. I think you just kind of, I don't want to say take it on the chin, but you do have to kind of roll with the punches and look forward to the future because there's so many opportunities out there. Yeah. And I'm going to keep shamelessly plugging Georgia Tech because there are so many great relationships and resources here that you can leverage to build other relationships and build other opportunities. And it's funny because with the whole Nike scenario, it wasn't even on my radar, right? And then as soon as I got kind of the callback for the first interview, everyone was like, "Oh man, have you connected with this guy or this guy or this guy?" And I was like, "No." I was like, "Wait, you guys I could have done that?" And they were like, "Yeah, like all you got to do." And that's another thing about Georgia Tech too, is like there are a limitless amount of resources here, but you also have to have that kind of that initiative too. You have to have that drive to go out and get what you want as well. So, I kind of wish I knew that about Nike early on, but it worked out, so it's okay.
This is super random, but I'm going to put you on the spot really quickly. What's your favorite pair of Nikes?
Oh goodness, funny enough, growing up, I had Shocks like with the four rubber. I thought those, for some reason, those are like cemented in my mind as like the Nike shoe. I don't know why, but it is. We didn't grow up playing basketball too much. I had some Vaporfly cleats were my number one. So I think probably those two shoes.
Okay, that's a good answer.
I'm getting better about Nike shoes, understanding what Dunks, I'm such in my little nascent phase of I guess a shoe collection. So I don't have Jordans. I don't have, collector items. I don't have any 720s or anything like that. So yet.
So I'm expecting when you come back this summer, you're going to have a full fleet of.
Someone did mention an employee discount.
Yeah.
I might have to utilize that.
And you're in logistics, so it just makes sense.
Yeah.
Logistically get yourself together.
As long as it's properly documented, I think we'll have a closet full of Dunks and 720s and Air Maxes ones coming in. So be good. We're excited for it.
Just a few more things.
Yeah.
Let's talk about what you're most excited about for this summer.
To me, it's always about the culture and the organization you're going into. I think that, to me, always speaks volumes about the company itself. All the research I've done with Nike, individuals I've had the opportunity to reach out to, it's the first thing they mention, and it's something that was very close to me when I was in the military as well. The culture of the organization really defines the passion that the employees give into it. And so seeing that Nike does have such a strong culture and a cohesive culture is, I think, what I'm probably most excited about.
Okay, so you're most excited about the experience of the culture.
The people understand, because it's not, everyone's like, "Oh, you're going to Portland, you're going to headquarters, blah, blah, blah." And I'm like, "No, I'm going to Memphis." And they're like, "Memphis?
Yeah.
What are you going to Memphis for?" And so I think it's probably like, I'm curious to see how the two differ. Like, one's kind of like an Eastern headquarters, one's in the Western headquarters, kind of see how that differs. But it's always, I think at the end of the day, it's always the people that get me more excited about the company than anything else. Because you can work for, any Fortune 100 company. You work for NVIDIA, but if you have a bad boss, there's a bad culture there, right? I'm just using them because they kind of blew up in stock, so it's a good name at the moment. But, you could work for a company and they could be number one in the world at whatever they do. But if the people there are cutthroat, they're disingenuous, they don't really care about the people that are to the left and right of them, it makes the entire experience not worth it. And so I'm looking forward to impact the organization there, and then also kind of grow personally from there as well. So,
and then how do you plan on leveraging this summer your experience to maybe get to your next steps? Like, you'll come back to the program.
Yeah.
What do you want to get out of it?
That is a great question. I like to say when I get there, I'll know. But I really do believe it's building a network there. And then also, this is going to be my first job out of the military itself. So I think there's probably a plethora of things I don't know, and that, like, new skills I'll garner and all this kind of stuff. So I'm looking forward to kind of just the new experiences and then leveraging those experiences. Now, I just don't know what they are yet.
Yeah.
But we'll see. It's real world experience. We'll go there, we'll rock and roll, and we'll come on back.
All right.
So, yeah.
Do you have any advice for maybe students who are going to be in your space this time next year on how they can, tailor the recruitment strategy, utilize resources here, anything in that area?
Yeah, I think what's so fascinating about an MBA program is that a lot of people come here to pivot their careers. That's exactly what I was doing. It's a transformative time in your life. So you might not exactly know what you want. Some people might want consulting, and they're hell-bent on consulting. This is what they were born to do. For some reason, they didn't do it before the MBA program, but they're going to do it now. And not to knock on it, I'm in the consulting club as well, and they have incredible resources there as well, and it helps you with recruiting. Now, actually, let me kind of back up a little bit. I would say join the consulting club because their mentality of how to prep for those interviews really does help with all other interviews too. So like a lot of how they approach frameworks, how they approach prepping for jobs, the STAR method with your stories, whatnot. I thought that was a huge advantage. But then kind of coming back to the original question is, if you are very excited and passionate about one industry and you want to go to the industry, like, hey, I came to Georgia Tech for this, absolutely pursue it. Don't let anyone hold you back. That's kind of how it was for me in space. I really wanted to get into SpaceX, really wanted to get into Blue Origin. But also do not close yourself off to other opportunities. And that's exactly, I think, I'm a best case scenario for that scenario, is that there's an opportunity with Nike and it was too good to pass up. I mean, I think we're gonna take the summer by storm and go from there. But don't be don't have tunnel vision going into the semester. Be open to a lot of different things. It could be product management. It could be technical sales. It could be marketing, whatever have you. I mean, there's so many opportunities here at Georgia Tech and the relationships that Georgia Tech has and fosters with so many great companies here in Atlanta as well as across the globe as well, that you have an incredible amount of opportunities. But you also have to have that initiative to get there too. And do not deter from your end goal, which is, get experiences that you like, get experiences that, you came to the school for. If you have to take a role somewhere that you might not think it's the best thing for you, but it's the only opportunity that you have, leverage that in such a way to where it's, hey, I'm gonna make this a learning experience so I can leverage it for my next step. Kind of your last question there, talking about Nike. I think there's a lot of resources, not only with the Jones Career Center, but once again, the connections that you're going to make here at Georgia Tech. We've got a buddy who was on the club hockey team. He got his role through someone on the hockey team.
Yeah.
So it's like, you just never know the connections and the network you're going to make here. So I think, three things to kind of pull from that kind of rambling I've been going on. It's kind of know what you want initially. Don't close yourself off to other opportunities, and then leverage your network. I mean, I think those three things right there are going to set you up for success in any category.
Thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Intersection Podcast. You can catch us on Apple, Spotify, or SoundCloud, and we hope you enjoyed this part of the summer series.